Hi everyone, Matt here from MM3D. In this quick tips video, I'm going to focus on red flag clients in the field of design. That is, clients you really don't want to work with. If you see these red flags, I honestly believe it's best to move on and find someone else to do business with. Tip 1. Something for nothing and scammers. The first type of client to avoid is the one that frequently ensnares new designers, and that is people who expect quality work for nothing. I class these people as scammers myself because frankly I think what they do often crosses the border into actual criminal behaviour. These are the kind of people who will happily steal or plagiarise your work if you don't watermark samples that you send them. They will also have no intention of ever paying you for your work, often right from the outset. Often they will camouflage their deceit by preying on your naivety or good nature. They'll try to gaslight you and guilt you into doing more and more work, and soon a free sample turns into an entire project that they won't pay you for. Sometimes the most cynical of these people will actually pay you at first, but then will falsely claim a refund for supposedly poor work, even though the work is excellent. To avoid these people, it's very important that you charge money up front. If they won't pay, drop the conversation immediately. Similarly, if someone is constantly skirting around how much they will pay for a job, don't bother with them. It's also great to have a written contract, especially for larger projects. At the very least, you should have an invoice sorted when you take on a job. Vetting your clients and establishing trust with them helps to avoid encountering these kinds of rip-off artists. Larger companies are also much more reliable and professional as a general rule, although of course, you must always be careful. I would also recommend that you always get your clients to pay you through direct bank transfer and use no other means. This ensures they cannot scam you by falsely making a chargeback claim, something digital goods sellers like 3D specialists are vulnerable to through means like PayPal. Tip 2. Excessively cheap clients, aka I know someone who does this cheaper. Sometimes you'll meet someone who just wants to constantly haggle your prices. Often these people will claim that they have a fabled friend or cousin who does your job but for much cheaper. The answer to this is very simple. Just smile politely and say, okay, good luck with it. Feel free to come back if you'd like any help in the future. If the friend or cousin is actually real, it's likely this person will come back a week later wanting to pay you the full price, as the cut price cousin did an absolutely terrible job. Alternatively, if they're lying about this other magical business, they will often concede to your price straight away once they realise you know that they're trying it on. The simple fact is, you get what you pay for. It's never worth giving cut price work to people just because they demand it, because it builds resentment and compromises the quality of your work. Instead, look for clients who realise your utility and will pay your rate without complaint. Tip 3. Mr. Excuses. Mr. Excuses is a client who seems professional at first, but then suddenly starts to provide incredibly lame excuses whenever he has to deliver on his end of the bargain. I can't pay right now, or I can't meet with you for the third time this month are great examples. If you ever have a client start behaving like this, cease any further work immediately until the problem is resolved. If the excuses are particularly unreasonable, I recommend not working with the client again after the project is complete. You can use an excuse like saying you're really booked up with work, which may often be true anyway if things are going well. Tip 4. Clients who don't respect you. This one's very simple. Clients who have a disrespect for your work, are rude to you, or constantly object to the amount you charge are to be avoided at all costs. These are clients who will often challenge you in a confrontational manner over how you work, how fast you work, or the quality of your work. Sometimes they will even acknowledge you do amazing work, but then demand a decreased rate from you on the next job. It can be really insulting to be treated like this, especially if your client already has a much larger income than your business and could easily pay your rate. Don't allow yourself to be demeaned. If you get an aggressive or disrespectful client, they're worth dropping as soon as possible, even if the pay is good. You should feel like your client values your talent and experience. Tip 5. Extremely vague clients, aka I'll know it when I see it. One of the most frustrating experiences is working with a client who has no idea what they actually want. Many people who have no design experience don't understand that the job of a designer is not to come up with a perfect idea from nothing. Instead, you are there to find out what your client wants and provide a suitable design or concept. If your client cannot help with this part of the process, or is unwilling to engage with the ideas you produce with useful critique, your job can literally become impossible. I once had to make a few designs for a corporate client who had this exact problem. They simply had no ideas of their own regarding what they wanted. The job ended up with me producing entire artworks based off one-word descriptions from the client. The result was, I undercharged for the work, and a lot of time was wasted on both sides, for a result that went nowhere. The exact same process is at play when you have a client who says things like, I want something cool, or make it more modern, or we want a sexier feel. Terms like this are utterly useless and just make the job harder. The best way to avoid having to work with people like this is to ask a lot of questions in your first meeting with them. If they cannot give you any concrete design brief or any idea of what they want, it's best to walk away then and there. One of my favourite strategies for getting around this problem is to get a client to provide me with visual references of things that they like. This can really avoid poor communication. Tip 6. Excessively picky clients, aka Mr. Revision. Excessively picky clients who want constant revisions are another problem. These clients seem to overlap with the people who are overly cheap about a job. I think it's a psychology thing. When people have a very limited budget, they tend to become excessively particular about how things are done. These clients will constantly want you to work in a certain way, even if it makes the job harder and makes no sense. You'll provide them with a design and they'll want change after change after change, often conveniently forgetting that they're not paying you for this extra work. This is where you have to put your foot down and demand extra payment for revisions. Alternatively, it may be best to simply say that you're unsure where to proceed next and perhaps they would be best working with another business. To avoid this situation, go for clients who are willing to pay a higher price tag and who seem very pleased with your portfolio work. As with vague clients, you should also ask them a lot of questions to start with. This can weed out any excessive pickiness if they start using vague terms or complain about good designs for no sensible reason. Often, a potential client who complains relentlessly about someone they hired previously for the same job is a big red flag that they are an excessively picky client, and I would avoid doing business with them. Charging more for revisions also tends to restrict excessively picky clients to making 1 or 2 changes rather than an absurd amount. Tip 7. Time-wasting clients. Time-wasting clients are not necessarily malicious bad clients, they simply make the mistake of being indecisive. They want repeated meeting with you on a regular basis, while at the same time not agreeing to use any of your paid services. They'll send a dozen emails back and forth without actually having a decisive exchange with you. They may also constantly seek your advice without paying for consultancy, or they'll want your design input on their own branding without hiring you to do anything for them. This can be avoided by simply being open about your pricing and saying that you'll have to charge for further consultancy. If they still want your time, your business is now getting paid. If they're simply being indecisive, a reply like this will often stop them leeching your time for no reason. That's all for the tips today. I hope they were helpful. If you find them useful, please like and subscribe. I'd love to see your comments below as well. Thank you for watching, and good luck with your business.